On Monday, April 11th, 1981, in one of Chicago's banks, the attendant opened the bank vault and everything was just fine. Shortly after, a client came in and asked to open their safety deposit box. The attendant accompanied her to the vault, but when they put the keys in the lock, they were surprised when the lock cylinder fell into the box. Then they discovered that 74 boxes were broken into. There was no trace of any hole or opening. Everything appeared normal. How did the thieves get into the vault? That's what we're gonna figure out in today's video. Today's story takes place in a town named Barrington, a small town in Chicago. In this town, there is only one bank, a branch of the Federal Bank, the First National Bank. At that time, the bank vaults were on a time lock. That is to say, the bankers had to calculate the amount of time the vault should remain locked. Once the door was locked, no one could bypass it, even if they had the keys. For example, if the working hours ended at 5 p.m. and started at 9 p.m., the bankers had to calculate the time in between, which was 16 hours, and then program the vault not to open until after 16 hours. During this time, no one could open the safe, even if they had the key or PIN. The same rule applied to weekends. The bank used to work part-time on Saturdays, meaning that after the end of the morning period, they would lock the vault and set it to open on Monday morning. On Saturday, April 11, 1981, the attendant in charge of the vault locked the door and set it to open Monday morning. After the weekend, the bankers returned to their normal work on Monday morning, April 13th, 1981. The attendant in charge entered the PIN and unlocked the vault. Everything appeared normal. The vault contained many safe deposit boxes where people kept their valuable items. Each safe had 2 keys, one for the attendant in charge and one for the owner of the safe box. Both keys had to be used to open the safe box. On that morning, everything was going great until one of the safe deposit box owners came to the bank. She told the banker that she wanted to open her safe box. The attendant in charge took her and entered the box. They both put their keys in the box and the cylinder lock fell into the box, which meant that the safe box lock was broken. They opened the box and found they were being robbed. The attendant began to check the other safe deposit boxes, only to find that 74 boxes were broken and robbed. The vault itself didn't appear to have been robbed. Even the broken locks were in place, but they would fall as soon as they were touched. It seemed that the robbers had made an effort to hide their robbery. They didn't want the bankers to discover the robbery immediately. But the question is, why? The bank management informed the police, who began the investigation straight away. Due to the fact that it was a federal bank, the FBI conducted an investigation as well. The officers found out that the robbers had stolen property worth more than $1 million. The crime scene puzzled the officers. They wondered how the thieves had managed to get in. There was no hole or opening, and the vault door was locked without any damage. They also found evidence that raised their confusion: an old alarm clock, the tools used to break the safe boxes like hammer and pliers, and a bottle filled with urine. Despite all the efforts made by the investigators, they were unable to find a lead that would help them solve the mystery of the case. The local newspapers literally described the robbery as the perfect crime. What appeared strange was that the perfect crime was actually the work of one person. He was a hairdresser named William Smarto. And he was literally smart. He was a serial bank robber who had carried out many robberies, but this was the largest and most successful. He worked as a hairdresser at a ladies' salon. Although it was a profitable job, it seems that Smarto was ambitious. He wanted a bigger challenge and was ready to take risks. He carried out the robbery almost on his own. With small help from his brother, Vincent, the two brothers were looking for potential targets together. They targeted banks located in wealthy areas because they were likely to find safety deposit boxes with valuable items. When they discovered Barrington and found that bank, they knew this was the right target they were looking for. The two brothers entered the bank and began talking to the attendant in charge of the bank vault. Smarto was attractive and a man with excellent communication skills, which allowed him to deceive anyone. They rented a box under a fake name and used to go to the bank frequently, attempting to familiarize themselves with the vault attendant by chatting with her until they became friends. In parallel, they were monitoring her movements and behavior, including when she took breaks and how she operated. We can say they focused more on human weaknesses than on technical ones in the bank. This is one of the methods used by thieves and hackers called social engineering, and it refers to all techniques aimed at talking a target into revealing specific information or performing a specific action for illegitimate reasons. As mentioned earlier, Smarto and his brother frequently visited the bank. When the vault was open, the door remained open. When the safe box owner came, the attendant would check their identity, go with them to open their safe box, and then leave the vault to give the client some privacy. Vincent, the younger brother, used to chat with the attendant while Smarto stayed inside the vault, checking it, examining the safety deposit boxes, and observing what items would help him carry out the operation. The most important thing he discovered was that the attendants checked clients' identities only at entry, and upon exit, the client could leave the bank normally without any further scrutiny. The next step for Smarto was to get his tools into the vault. The best place to hide them was his safety deposit box. He brought his tools in a bag, and the vault attendant accompanied him to his box, opened it with him, and then left to give him privacy. And the Smarto started putting his tools inside his box. Of course, he did not bring all his tools at once, but brought them one by one so no one would suspect him. His box was eventually full of tools, but he still needed to bring a larger one. Some tools were too big to fit into the box, even if it was empty. So Smarto devised another clever strategy. He told the bank attendants that he was an artifact and painting dealer, allowing him to bring larger bags into the bank. However, he still had the problem of where to put the large tools. That's when he noticed the vault had a false ceiling. He took advantage of the space above the ceiling to keep his items. He stored his tools, lights, food, and everything else he needed for the operation. Smarto then had to deal with the alarm system. The alarm was a simple sound sensor designed to prevent anyone from trying to penetrate the vault through its walls or floor. Brave. Although Smarto didn't intend to break into the vault through the walls, floor, or ceiling, he still needed to disable the alarm to break the safe box. Luckily for him, the alarm system wasn't sophisticated, and Smarto was experienced in electronics. He damaged the sound accumulator, rendering the alarm useless. However, Smarto was still concerned about the possibility of hidden alarms in the vault. To confirm that he had disabled all alarms, he set a small alarm clock on the ceiling to ring at night when the bank was closed. If there were any remaining sound sensors, they would detect the alarm and activate, prompting the police to respond. Smarto monitored the bank to see if the police would arrive. Indeed, the police showed up, checked the bank, and left after finding nothing suspicious. At that point, Smarto realized there were other alarms in the vault. In the days that followed, he carefully located and disabled all the remaining alarms. He repeated his test with the alarm clock, setting it to ring at night. This time, the police didn't arrive, confirming that all the alarms had been neutralized. The toughest part of the plan was yet to come, breaking into the vault.